Hey, Vinyl Community, happy Friday. Been up for a little bit listening to music, and I was thinking, what would be a pretty cool video for me to do. And as I was listening to a couple recent pickups, the idea came to my head 5 by 5. So 5 Jazz Grails and then 5 non-Jazz Grails of everything that I've acquired so far this year. And there's a couple things I'm going to show that made it to the non-Jazz Grail list that you guys haven't seen yet. So I thought it'd be a cool way to kind of showcase what a heck of a year 2021 has already been. My first year getting back into collecting, and at the same time showing you a couple new things. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to start with is the 5 non-Jazz Grails, and then we'll finish up with the jazz stuff. So yesterday, made an hour trip to my closest record store because a friend of mine who met through Instagram and everything else sent me a couple of teaser videos of the punk and new wave collection that their store had acquired, and there are a couple of things that instantly spoke to me, and it's like, if I got to put a down payment on it, let me know, but I gotta have those. So one thing led to another, and he was able to put those aside for me, and went and picked them up and actually found a couple more things. Brought a stack of heat to trade, and in the end, basically it only cost me tax. So I'll show you, here's the first one. And won't be able to show you the vinyl because it's currently playing in the background. I really don't make any money from this anyway, so if I get a copyright strike, what the hell, right? Ramones Road to Ruin. This is a 1978 first pressing. Beautiful, beautiful condition. This guy's collection, he took really good care of it. A lot of radio station stuff. I was going through the stuff that actually made it in that I just wanted to have a look at. And, a lot of front covers had, the radio station's name on it and stuff like that. But this was one of 3 Ramones albums that were in that collection. And this, to me, was the one that spoke to me the most because it's such an iconic album. And the cover is VG+, the vinyl's near mint. I mean, this guy took immaculate care of his collection, and if you know anything about like the guys that, big punk and new wave guys from back in the day, they played these albums to death. So to find them in really nice shape is getting harder and harder to find with every passing year. Next one. This one actually was showcased in a previous video for recent acquisitions, but some people might call it might not call it a grail, but for me it is just because it's the one Smith's album that I felt was important to have. And again, prices on them have gone up in recent years. The Smiths Muse Murder. This is a original first pressing with the inner lyric sheet and everything else. It's a really interesting album, and it's on a lot of top 100 lists. What's interesting about this album, and I always found this, it's just an interesting fact of musical history. One of the Smiths' biggest songs was not going to be on this album, and it was actually going to be a B-side. And from my understanding, the record executives decided that was one thing led to another, and that was going to be on the album. And the band's attitude is like, really, whatever. And it ended up being one of the biggest hits, which is the iconic Smith song "How Soon Is Now." The UK pressings do not have that album, do not have that track on the album. Only from my understanding, only the first US pressings had it. And if you actually look at the back cover, it's actually not listed on the track listing. It's only listed on the label itself. So if you actually don't look to find out, you may not know if it's on there or not. And I actually found that out after I bought the album, because I was thinking, heard, well, I thought that track was actually on the album, and I was looking at the back cover, it's like, it's not on here, that's weird. And then I put it on, and starting of side 2, that track played. It's like, So it's not on the album jacket, but it's on the label. One of those interesting musical facts, I guess. But iconic album. I mean, this one I got at a great price, but this album's routinely I've seen selling in good shape for between 50 and 70 bucks. It's always been an iconic album, and it's always been on a lot of people's want lists. So I was happy to find this one out in the wild at my local store. The last three are absolute grails. This next one has been on my want list for years and years and years and years and years. If you follow me, follow my channel, you'll know that when I showed this in my last video, I explained that I've been wanting an original copy on vinyl since I was a teenager. And I had recently gotten into some money, selling some stuff out of my collection I didn't need. And I'm always of the opinion that if I can't use something, it needs to leave. It doesn't need to take up space on my shelf. If I don't listen to it, it doesn't need to be there. So I made some moves, sold some stuff, and started looking. Made a very short list of things I wanted to find, and this was at the top of it. Before I show you, I will say that this album in particular, just like the debut album from this band, it's really hard to find beyond VG condition, because it's, the albums didn't sell in high numbers when they first came out, and those that did buy them played them to death, just like the Ramones that I showed you earlier. And so to find a VG Plus copy or better, you can find them now, but they're spendy. This one I got really lucky with. Stooges Funhouse. This is an original first pressing. The cover, the bottom seam is partially blown, but I'll look at rectifying that down the line with one of the split repair stickers. What do you call them? The Seam VV split repairs strips. Apart from that, just a little bit of wear, but the vinyl has some hairlines, but this thing plays incredible, and that's a lesson, guys. Just because the album looks like potentially it's gonna be hell, it's gonna play like hell, doesn't mean it's gonna play like hell. For the vinyl veterans, if you will, I don't have to mention this. It's like preaching to the choir, but for the new guys, one little piece of advice: if you find an album in a thrift store, local record store, whatever, and they haven't checked it, look at the vinyl, and if it's got some scratches on it, feel the scratch that catches your attention the most with your finger. If it's deep enough, chances are it's at least going to have noise on it, or potentially skip. With the older jazz records, it's a little bit less of a problem, because the thickness of the vinyl and the deep groove, usually like Blue Note, etc., you don't have to worry about that. But albums like this, the vinyl's a little bit thinner. So if it's beyond a hairline, which, you know, it's a hairline is just quite simply, if it's got a cosmetic mark, can't feel it with your finger, and it's not really imprinted into the vinyl. It's just on the surface. Usually you can get away with that. This one was listed as a VG copy. Spoke with the seller, and he had said it was out of his father's record collection. It's one of the ones he had held on to. He said it played great. Well, I looked at the condition and I mentioned, I said, would you be willing to take a sample video of the album playing on this particular track, which is the first track, which is Down the Street, which is my favorite Stooges track ever. I mean, there's some contenders, but that's my favorite. He took the sample video, sent it to me, and I listened to it. Sounded great. I asked him, does it sound like that all the way through? And he goes, with the exception of a little bit of noise in between the transition on the tracks, it sounds great. I said, okay, I'll take a chance on it. Came to a agreement on price. I got it about a week or so later. With the way shipping currently is with the postal service, it seems like if it's within the general vicinity of where I live, New Mexico, Arizona, usually 3 to 4 days, maybe as much as 5 or 6, but usually within the week I'll get it. And so I got this guy, gave it a good solid clean, put it on the table that's behind me. It's a Thorn's TD-191. It was my father's turntable before he passed, and I'd basically taken it over. And this album just came out in full force right out of the speakers. And with I said, with the exception of the split on the bottom, this is a solid VG Plus copy. And at the price I paid, I couldn't be happier. And this is a Grail, like I said, that I've been looking for 20 years plus. So yeah, for me, this is well worth the wait. This next one was a tough one between number 2 and number 1 on the top 5 non-Jazz Grail list so far this year. But I decided to hold out. The two between the two. I decided to do this one for number 2, and this one just came to me yesterday from the same collection as the Ramones did. Television Marquee Moon. This is a white label promo. Such an iconic album. If you don't know anything about Television, they were a late 70s band out of New York's music scene, and they got a lot of attention for their different styling. I mean, they have some punk influences, but they dabble a little bit more in other things. And they eventually signed to Elektra Records, and this was their debut album. Side A on this album is clean as a whistle. Side B has what almost looks like, if I could describe it, it almost looks like grease marks, but I think it's a pressing flaw. Put this album on yesterday when I got it, and this thing plays like a near neck copy. So the jacket's about a VG, borderline VG plus. I mean, no serious splits or anything, but the album itself is, I'd call it VG plus. It's all VG plus to be on the safe side. I gotta say this is closer to excellent. And it's such an iconic album, and it's one of those that has gone up in value, and it's always had a high desirability. So when this was teased in the video, I contacted him and he was saying, I gotta have that one. Please put it aside. I'll do what I gotta do. Please put it aside. I said, brought some trade fodder down and got more than enough to buy this, and I got it at a smoking price. My area is, all generally record stores around the country and around the world, if you price stuff too high, it's going to sit, unless it's something really, really rare. And it takes that right individual walking in. If you price something at right, even if it's a rare album, it will sell. It might take a little bit, but it'll sell. This one found a buyer right out of the gate. It's one I've been searching for a long time, and in good condition. But the price they put on this, it was really hard for me to say no. And in the end, I couldn't say no. So again, happy to add this, and I'm going to put it on the platter here in a little bit. We'll see. Number 1 on the non-jazz 5x5 list. Led Zeppelin 2. This is an original pressing. Now most people would look at that and go, really? That made number 1? Why? It's an iconic album, but it's such a common album. There's always more to the story than meets the eye. This is an interesting pressing because it's the part of the infamous Robert Ludwig hot mix story. When I found this album online through a dealer I'd bought from before, he'd said that it was a hot mix. Side A had the initials of the engineer Robert Ludwig. Everything seemed up and up. I got it. Played side 1, came out of the speakers, like a freight train. Side 2 seemed a little bit weird. It's like, well, side A sounds really loud. Why would side B sound so soft? This is a transitional copy. So to keep it brief, for those of you that don't know, originally this album was mastered by Robert Ludwig, and he got permission from his immediate supervisor to make this album as hot / loud as possible, to have a really deep, rich mix. He got permission. He took the test pressing over to his boss. They played it. It sounded great. So they went ahead and pressed it. The famous Atlantic producer, press guy, whatever you want to call it. I don't know his last name, but his first name is Ahmed. His daughter bought this album and played it on a little cheap, probably like $5 Sears turntable, and it was skipping. Told her father, I can't play this album, it's brand new, it's skipping all over the place. Ahmed panicked, had them recall the album and do a different mix where the loudness was toned down so it would play on cheaper turntables. You've got two different versions before that mix, which is, I believe it was Lee Holko that did that mix. You've got the Robert Ludwig hot mix, which is the way the band actually wanted the album to sound in the end, because they agreed to put it out. And then you have the copies like this, which are side A. I'm probably not going to be able to pick it up all that great. Side A has the Robert Ludwig hot mix on that side, and then side B, which is supposedly the side where everybody was having the problems with the album skipping, has the remastered mix. The mix on this one on side B is a little bit earlier. So, a good way to describe it is, it hasn't been neutered completely, but the edge has been taken off of it. Whereas side A, I mean, it just blows you right away. So I'll come out with it. I paid $170 for this album. It was listed as a VG Plus album, condition. Jacket's good. It's got a little bit of soiling, but no real problems apart from a little bit of a split on the very, very bottom, I think. Yeah, very, very bottom. I don't know if you can see that. But got the album, cleaned it. It's, with the exception of a couple little scuffs, this thing is clean as clean can be, and it plays amazing. I actually prefer having this copy, this variation, over the original hot mix, because for anybody that doesn't know, you can pull this out, play side A, play side B, and if when they start asking, well, why does side B sound so much toned down, I can tell them that this is one of those copies that they were trying to do their best to fix the problem without having to do a whole new mix completely. And in the end, the one that got released later, I believe the second pressings, is the new mix. So you will notice a difference. And the good way to tell is the front cover says SD8236. I don't know if you guys can see that all that well. Try that. But that's how you tell if you've got one. It's really hard to find one of these, either the complete hot mix or one of these partials. Actually, it's harder to find one of the partials better than VG Condition, because it's such a popular album, and they were just played to death. So this one, I had a hot mix when I was a teenager. I don't know what happened to it, so I was really, really happy to get this. Even though it's not the both sides hot mix, I'm still really happy to have this. I've played this half a dozen times since I got it earlier this week. So this is number one on the 5x5 non-jazz portion of this video. The next 5 are my Jazz Grails so far this year. One of these I'm actually showing for the last time, because it's going to a good friend of mine in the vinyl community, and I know that it's going to find a really good home where it's going. So I'm going to start off with this one. Hope you don't mind the plastic. I just want to make sure it was fully secured before it got sent out. Dexter Gordon, Getting Around. This is a first stereo pressing. I was surfing eBay one night in between working and on my break, and I was looking actually for another Dexter album, and this one popped up within like the third listing. He wanted $250 for it, but he was taking offers. Threw him 2 offers. First one was too low, second one he took. And he listed it as a, just called it a VG Plus copy, closer to excellent, but side B had like a cloudy effect. He's called it a pressing flaw. Got the album, played beautifully. He included samples in the listing and everything else. And got it. I've got a product that I use to help with cloudiness and cleaned it right up. And this thing plays beautifully. I'm sorry to see it go, but at the same time, things change, and like I said, the person it's going to is going to appreciate it, and I know it's going to a good home. So, I mean, and the price that we agreed on is more than fair for this. Number 4. This next one I actually found at my local shop. Again, I got a message from my buddy that works there saying, this came into the shop, do you want it? It's a first pressing mono. 2 pictures, told me the condition. Yes, hold it for me, I will be there. I actually had to put down a $50 deposit to keep the owner from taking it. So, Kirby Hancock, taken off. Again, first pressing mono. I'd call it a VG Plus, weaker VG Plus copy. Side A plays strong VG Plus. Side B, weaker VG Plus. It's got some hairlines, but it still plays beautifully. That original glossy cover. The cover didn't look like this originally. It had some scuffing. I used the same process I did if you followed my channel in one of the earlier videos with the Lee Morgan sidewinder that I picked up that had the scuffing on the front. Same process and cleaned it right up. It looks like a brand new album jacket. Blue Note stuff has generally been out of my price range, so when I can find them at a good price, I jump on it. And when this one came in, I knew I had to have it. And had a moment of a little bit of a moment when I put it on after I cleaned it. Side 2 got stuck in a loop, and it's like, oh god, because they told me that it had played through and played beautifully. Took it off, deep cleaned it a second time. It went from having a loop to just having a little bit of a pop, and it's a very brief pop, but apart from that, it plays beautifully. So I'm okay with that. So this was an awesome find to find out in the wild. I'm actually really shocked that this one actually walked through the door, because usually with the Blue Note stuff, generally people hold on to them. Number 3. This is actually an upgrade from my previous copy. This is Thelonious Monk Brilliant Corners. It's a second pressing. I believe it's a... I think it's a stereo. For anybody that follows me, if you can tell me if the what's this long playing microgroove, the blue label, if that's a stereo or a mono. But I'm gonna say it's a stereo. This one turned up in a collection out of New York. The seller flat out said didn't know much about records, but he was told the difference between a skip and a scratch and a scuff or a smudge. Got this guy for $60, and got it in, and cleaned it like everything I generally get. And this thing plays worlds beyond my previous copy. My previous copy is going to a good friend of mine that I made since I've gotten back into vinyl. It's a surprise. Not to say who it is, because I usually post updates on my Instagram, and that person follows me. So I don't want to spoil it. But my previous copy is going to that person. So I'm looking forward to seeing their reaction. But I was really happy to get this. This is one of his most iconic works that Monk put out. And it's a must-have. If you can't find an original, pick up a reissue. You will not be disappointed, believe me. The only way I would let this one go now is if I found a first pressing mono, which is a white label. But really awesome pickup, and a recent pickup on top of that. Final two. So this was a tough choice between between number one and number two, but in the end, the one that made it to number one was a no-brainer for me in the end. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. So, number two, Curtis Amy and Dupree Bolton, Katanga. This is a first pressing mono on Pacific Jazz. Picked this up from Vinyl Vault on Instagram. Yeah, his blues website is Buy Records. He's out of Florida. Awesome dude. Essentially, you got money. You got a collection that you need to fill some grills. He's your man to go to. Might take him a little bit, but he's the man. He's the man to do it. He posted this as a teaser, and reached out to him. Told him I had to have it. Came to a price. Got it in the mail. This is a solid VG Plus copy, and it's such a rare album. If you can't find an original, Blue Note put this out on their Tone Poet series. I kept my Tone Poet reissue before I got this one. Awesome! It's an awesome reissue, and I highly recommend it. $30, and it's solid beat, solid beat. And then who knows? Maybe you might luck into an original. But I was really happy to pick this guy up. I didn't think I'd get one so soon, but again, I was really happy to get this one. And it's again solid playing copy. And to wrap up, 5x5, 5 jazz, 5 non-jazz Grail video. I've wanted this album since I was a kid, just like the Funhouse, and when I came into some money, I decided, screw it. Prices are not going down on this album, just like many others. I had to find a good one. John Coltrane, Love Supreme. This is a first stereo pressing. Solid VG Plus copy, if not better. Few scuffs, but that's about it. The only damage on the jacket is a handling mark at the very top. No seam splits, nothing. I got this from a seller out of Europe. Got it at a really good price considering what they're currently going for. The monos go for a little bit more. The stereos are starting to creep up too. Got this, waited about 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks to get it, and once it came, I couldn't put it on the platter fast enough. Such an iconic album. Coltrane is my favorite artist by far in the jazz world. In certain circles, he's revered as a saint. This is a man who mastered his craft, fought back addiction, and died at a very early age, but his music and his legacy live on. So while he's got some other amazing albums, this is a must-have. This is up there. If you're getting into jazz, I don't care if you have to buy a reissue. Add this to your collection. If you're a punk guy, a rocker, if you like classical, add this album to your collection. Get it into your life. It's a must-have for any collector. And it's one of my favorite pieces in my collection, and I'm very happy to have it. So that's it, guys. That's my 5x5. I hope you enjoyed this little journey. If you like what you see, please click like and subscribe. It's a pleasure sharing these Grails with you. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and you guys have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. See you guys next time.